Welcome back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. We thought we'd try something new on this Russo-Souhan show. Now that we've done like 8,000 shows together, we got to keep things fresh. I thought we'd talk to Michael Russo about Trampled by Turtles.
Yeah. I'm out in Colorado. Got to go to my fourth Red Rock show, seeing Trampled there the other day, and it was absolutely awesome. Every time they play there, it's like the perfect place for them too, because you're playing in front of 9,000 people in the middle of the mountains. Perfect night. And it gives them a kind of a venue where they could show off musically. And if you ever seen Trampled by Turtles live, when they jam, it's just absolutely awesome to listen to. And they showed off the other day. It was one of the best Trampled shows that I've seen. And then again, hanging out backstage with them is always pretty special after a show like that. And then last night I didn't go, but they played at Estes Park at the Stanley Hotel, which from The Shining. And it's it's just to go from Red Rocks to all of a sudden this
to Red Rum
theater. Yeah. All of a sudden this small little theater. It would have been awesome to see the contrast yesterday, and that's the cool part about any time the Trampled tours is that you're one day you'll see them in front of thousands, next day you might see them in a theater in front of hundreds or a couple thousand, and they can play any venue. Awesome. So I'm looking forward. I'm going to see them a couple more times on this tour. Next month they play with the Avett Brothers down in southern Minnesota, and then they have 3 shows in Minnesota in November, and the Wild are in town for 2 of them. So I'll probably go to a couple of those.
On my way, I'm in Chicago just for a fun weekend. We're going to go see Hamilton down here, and on the way down, I'm interested in the Trampled by Turtles. Their artist's view of Springsteen's Seeger Sessions band and the live concert he did, because I watched that on the way down. It was just phenomenal. It's just kind of old. It's not exactly like Trampled by Turtles music, but it's kind of old Americana, big band, Dixieland mashup, and I'd be interested to see if they like that, because I find it to be fascinating stuff. But on to hockey. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, they are musical, nerds. I mean, they're fans like everybody else, and it's cool just sitting backstage talking about music. I know they absolutely love Chris from the Star Tribune. Follow him. I see all the times that he's posting live snippets from concerts, and they're liking it and reading it and all that stuff. So it's just been again, to see him in that venue again the other day, it's just to me it should be, if you haven't been to Red Rocks, to get on that bucket list. It's pretty you got to go out and make your way out to Morrison, Colorado.
Yeah, I got to do that. I got to take my wife out there. And by the way, Chris Schriemann-Snyder, one of our music critics at the Star Tribune, does a great job. So follow him if you get a chance. All right, this is the Russo-Souhan Show, part of the TalkNorth.com podcast network. Thanks to Twill and the Edina Galleria, FixologyRepair.com, Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent in Champlin, BiteSquad.com, and Tin Shed. Our next live show is July 31st at 7 p.m., and soon we're going to be putting out our schedule for live shows in August. July 31st, 7 p.m., massive crowd last time we did a show. It was a blast. There's plenty of seating, so you don't have to worry about that. There's plenty of seating. It's just a really laid-back, good atmosphere, good food, good drink, free parking, all that cool stuff. Come out and see us, 7 o'clock, July 31st. What hockey topic do you want to start with?
Really nothing's happened since our podcast last week. So I think today's probably a good opportunity to do Twitter questions. It is funny, though. As I mentioned, I'm out in Colorado, and I'm up in Breckenridge right now, which is one of my favorite places. I always try to make a couple days stop here when I have a couple extra days in Colorado. And I'm walking along, and I went to this place called Cecilia's last night, which is kind of this. It's an awesome place. It's kind of like it turns into a nightclub on weekends, but during the week, it's really this kind of like chill bar that you can also smoke cigars outside. So I'm sitting outside with my buddy last night, and just the locals here in Colorado, they're all from everywhere else. And it seems like everybody here has originally worked or is from Minnesota. And so last night we're sitting there within an hour, like 3 or 4 different Minnesotans just came and sat with us and just started talking hockey. And it was pretty neat being kind of in this neck of the woods and getting their feelings on the Wild, their feelings. A couple of them are Penguins fans. A couple of them have adopted the Blues. A lot of people have seem to be kind of letting their Wild fandom since they've moved out to Colorado go. But it was pretty neat last night, just kind of chatting hockey and with some of the locals here.
One of the coolest trips I ever did at the Star Tribune was when Red McCombs bought the Vikings. I had been down to San Antonio to visit him and do stories on him. And, he was trying to kiss up to the local reporter because he knew he was about to get the Vikings. But so he was a great host. And then when he bought the team, I talked him into letting me and Jeff Wheeler get on his private plane as he went out to his retreat in, I think it was Durango, Colorado, just a place up in the mountains. Just, my God, it's stunningly beautiful out there. So we just basically hung out in Durango, Colorado, and lived in his guest house for a couple of days and and worked on stories. I'm like, as Jeff said, man, we fell into some sweet smelling stuff here. Is the way he put it.
Well, you definitely find that in Colorado. In fact, at the cigar bar that I was at last night, there's a marijuana leaf picture on the window with a cross through it to let you know you can only have tobacco products outside, where we were sitting. So I just thought that was pretty funny. It's not something you'd see everywhere else. But it is funny, that you just reminded me. So back in the day, the Panthers used to have a training camp out in Val for like 4 or 5 days. And so we'd come up here, and the owner of the Panthers at the time was a guy named Alan Cohen, and he had a home next to Kelsey Grammer's house in Beaver Creek. And so one day he invites the media over there, and I remember this to the day. Chuck Fletcher's over there, Brian Murray, Mike Keenan, like people like that. It was Chuck Fletcher and Mike Keenan would have been there, and Rick Dudley, I believe, and he invites the media over for a dinner as well. And so I walk into the house, and I'm in this just massive, probably 10,000 square foot home. He had somebody working for him, like an assistant or somebody, that hands me a can of Diet Coke because that's what I asked for. I'm in the house for 2 minutes, and I dropped the soda in the middle on one of his wood floors, right in the foyer of his house. Like, you just want to crawl up and just die. And here I'm at this like gazillionaire's house, and immediately just drop a can of soda on his floor. You just couldn't make it up. But it was funny, last night, just talking to all these hockey fans, you start, we're smoking cigars, I'm drinking a scotch, and you start telling old stories, and they started asking me about like people like actually it was my buddy that asked me like if Pierre-Marc Bouchard was a good guy, and I started telling this funny story about how Bouchard, when he had his concussions, he'd sit right above me, above the right shoulder where I'd sit in the press box covering games for the Strib, and he would sit there and he'd be like, "Hey, Roos," and he'd come and I'd turn around and he'd start impersonating the way that I was typing. And it was the funniest thing in the world. It was like Pierre-Marc Bouchard's way of like being like, "Yeah, how do you like it? How do you like being watched and analyzed and it was funny because it made it like me so self-conscious of like typing in front of Bouchard because he's sitting there and looking over my shoulder and it just it was stories like that had them howling last night because it really is part of my job is to sit there and critique everything, and here I'm getting critiqued and I hated every minute of it.
It's awesome.
And then I started telling these stories about the old Sunshine Hockey League, and I still remember this guy. We started talking about Dumb and Dumber, because we were talking about Dumb and Dumber because I was telling about how Trampled was playing at Stanley Park, and most people would think of Stanley Park from The Shining, but there was scenes in Dumb and Dumber, I believe, from Stanley Hotel, excuse me, not Stanley Park. Stanley Park's in Vancouver, and so the scene where Jeff Daniels puts his tongue on I think it was Jeff Daniels, and puts his tongue on the ice, and his tongue gets stuck. I started telling this story that in the mid '90s, I covered this guy named Don Stone that played for the West Palm Beach Blaze, and he gets this huge gash in his nose, and this guy decided, because he was in such pain, to sink his head and stick it on the ice, and his head is now attached to the ice, and they had to delay the game. They had to delay the game and basically surgically cut out an ice chip to remove his face from the ice. And then they had to delay the game because they essentially create more ice where this guy basically created a hole in it. So it was funny. It was like last night you're telling all these old stories of things that have happened. So
wow.
Anyway.
That's an unusual one. All right, we're going to get to hockey. I do want to thank Scott Dayton and Twill in the Edina Galleria, TWIL on Instagram. TwillMN.com is the website. I bought a sport jacket I've been wearing a lot this fall that is beautiful. And not only is it a beautiful sport jacket, but it actually has a zip-in liner too, so you can wear it like as a winter coat, as a warmer coat, or you can take it out and you can't tell that there's a zipper in there. It just looks great with everything. So they have so much cool stuff. I think that's a Stenstrom's product, which I have about 8 pieces of right now. Twill in the Edina Galleria.
I'm here with my wife, Stacy. We went to Twill in the Edina Galleria the other day. We saw Scott Dayton, and I bought the nicest sport jacket I've ever owned, the most comfortable pants I've ever owned. They're Brax. A nice pair of loafers that I can wear to the ballpark. I think they're called Tracks. And I bought a bunch of Stenstrom short sleeve shirts to go with my Stenstrom nice dress shirts. And, I used to wear just disposable clothes. Now when I buy something, I buy it at Twill. I know it's going to last me the rest of my life, and it's going to be comfortable.
And on top of that, it's not just the best stuff you've ever had, but it's really everyday things that you can wear and that will fit all occasions.
Yeah, I've worn the Stenstrom short sleeve shirts every day this week. When I dress up or even just want to look nice at a game or a Lynx game or something, I wear the Stenstrom dress shirts. But really, the Brax pants are the most comfortable I've ever worn. They are more comfortable than jeans. I never thought I'd have anything more comfortable than a broken-in pair of jeans.
And he keeps saying that, Scott, so thank you very much.
Twill in the Edina Galleria, TwillMN.com, Twill on Instagram.
All right. Let's hit some Twitter questions. We are going to try to get to a lot of them today. Liam C. Hypothetically, if Fenton doesn't make it out of this season, who are some potential and up-and-coming GMs the Wild could target? Wow, we're already there, Michael.
Well, God, yeah. Let's get there first.
Yeah, let's get there.
But it is, God, man, it's funny that question came up because I got the Wild schedule in front of me and I was kind of looking at starting to plan trips. And again, it's like you look at the start of their season.
I know.
13 of 18 games on the road.
Ugh.
It's like, last year that might have been a good thing because of how dismal they were at home and it seemed like they could only win on the road. But man, what a difficult start to their season. And you just worry if they struggle out of the gate, if you're ever going to be able to catch up. And then all of a sudden with Fenton in a precarious position and Bruce in the last year of his deal, you do start to, that question is not one that's escaped me. Let's put it that way, that I haven't thought about. But up and coming GMs, if you're Craig Leopold at that point, you might want to go back to an experienced GM.
Yep.
But up and coming guys would be a couple of the same people that maybe interviewed for the job last time. Tom Fitzgerald was a finalist. Obviously, Billy Guerin was up for the job. It's funny, the Wild interviewed Julian Brisebois too, and he's now the Tampa GM. There were a couple of those type of guys out there. There's a long-time assistant still out there. Obviously Mike Modano starts in the business side of the organization come the fall. And I would, knowing Mike the way that I do, which is pretty well, my guess is that eventually he wants to transition into hockey ops in some capacity. And so, you always have him there. I think that'd be, to give somebody that's never done that though, a job right out of the gate, that's very rarely works. So, yeah, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
But you gave a good answer. From Johnson from Wisconsin, our friend, I waited at Denver Biscuit Company for hours, didn't see Russo. Tried to stalk you at Red Rocks, didn't see Russo. Serious hockey question, though. With Trouba getting $8 million over 7 years, does that price the Wild out of the Spurgeon market?
Great question. And sorry, I didn't see it at Red Rocks. I did see a lot of Wild fans that came up to me and were very kind. A couple that begged me to get them backstage. Unfortunately, getting backstage at Red Rocks is like trying to get into the Federal Reserve. So
yeah,
so I couldn't help.
By the way, you got me into the Federal Reserve though.
Yeah, that's true. I did get you into the Federal Reserve. Yeah. We took a tour of the Federal Reserve. Actually, that's funny. All right, maybe it's harder. Trouba getting. It's. I wouldn't say it prices them out, but it's gonna. As I said on the last podcast. To me, first of all, if I were a GM, I would rather have Jared Spurgeon than Jacob Trouba. That's just me. Maybe like everybody in the league, we always say that you really have to watch Spurgeon on an everyday basis to really understand how good this guy is. Maybe it's the same way with Trouba, and I don't get to see that. But I just think that the world of Spurgeon, and I'm not saying that he's going to be an $8 million hockey player with the Wild, but if the Wild come to him with the Ryan Ellis $6.25 million deal, let me just promise you, Eustace King will laugh and hang up. This thing is going to have to start with 7, and that Trouba contract absolutely ups the ante. And as I've written a gazillion times here, next summer, there's everybody from, entering the last year of their deals from Petran